Your mind is the battleground of your destiny. Everything God intends to do in your life begins within your mind. Before your situation shifts, your thinking must shift. Before elevation comes, there must be renewal. Before victory appears, your mindset must be reshaped. The mind is not just a place where thoughts pass through. It is the command center of your entire life. Whatever you allow into your mind will eventually shape your emotions, guide your decisions, and influence your destiny. That is why the enemy does not need to touch your body to overcome you. All that is required is to plant the wrong ideas in your mind. If he can make you believe you are weak, he does not need to actually weaken you. If he can persuade you that you are unworthy, he does not need to remove your blessings, because your own thoughts will sabotage them before they even arrive. The greatest battle you will ever face is not against demons, people, or systems. It is the battle within your own mind. It is the unseen conflict between truth and deception, faith and fear, purpose and delay. Every single day you wake up, this battle starts again. Your mind is the place where God's truth meets the noise of the world, and you must decide which one will prevail. Many people are struggling not because they lack prayer or power, but because their minds are still trapped in limiting beliefs. You have prayed, fasted, and even worried, yet nothing seems to change. The reason is simple. Your thinking is still aligned with defeat, pain, and limitation. Scripture says, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." This means your life reflects your thoughts, not your surroundings. You cannot rise beyond the limits of your thinking. If your thoughts are small, your life will shrink accordingly. If your thoughts are driven by fear, your decisions will mirror that fear. But if your thoughts are filled with faith, your actions will carry boldness. The state of your mind determines the state of your life. The way you think defines how far you can go. This is why some individuals with fewer resources, less education, and fewer opportunities still rise above others who seem to have everything. Their mindset was conditioned for victory. When Moses was called to deliver Israel, his biggest obstacle was not Pharaoh, it was his own insecurity. God told him to go, and Moses responded with doubt. He was not chained by Pharaoh's army. He was restricted by his own perception of himself. God had to break that mental barrier before Moses could step into his purpose. When Gideon was called, he described himself as the least in his family. That was not humility. It was a defeated mindset. God had to transform how he saw himself before others could see him differently. The same God who called Abraham, David, Esther, and Mary is calling you. But until your mind is trained to believe what God says about you, you will remain stuck in what the world says about you. This is why your mind is the true battlefield. You cannot succeed in life until you succeed in your thinking. You cannot walk in peace until your thoughts are disciplined. You cannot carry purpose until your mind is renewed. Most emotions are not born in your heart. They originate in your thoughts. You feel discouraged because of what you think. You feel anxious because of what you imagine. You feel anger because of what you repeatedly replay in your mind. Your mind produces emotions, and emotions produce actions. If the source is contaminated, the outcome will also be corrupted. Many people pray for emotional peace while ignoring the discipline of their thoughts. They want to feel better without thinking better. But peace cannot exist in a chaotic mind. Joy cannot grow in toxic thinking. Confidence cannot develop where thoughts are constantly destructive. The mind is the foundation of every emotion you experience. If your mind is not trained, your emotions will remain unstable. That is why transformation begins with renewing your mind, not your feelings. Feelings are temporary, but truth remains constant. When your thinking aligns with truth, your emotions will eventually submit to it. Your mind was designed to lead your emotions, not to be controlled by them. Yet many people today live as emotional reactors instead of mental leaders. They respond to everything they feel, even when their feelings are misleading. They follow fear, anger, jealousy, and sadness as if those emotions are instructions. But emotions are temporary, while truth is eternal. You cannot live based on feelings alone. You must live based on what you know to be true. The moment emotions begin to control your actions, you start losing direction over your destiny. Emotions were meant to signal, not to dominate. Consider Jesus. He experienced sorrow, yet he did not allow sorrow to stop him. He endured pain, yet he did not allow pain to alter his purpose. His mind remained stronger than his emotions. That is why he could say, "Not my will, but yours be done." That was not driven by emotion. It was the result of disciplined thinking. If you want to fulfill your purpose, your mind must be stronger than your emotions. Purpose demands consistency, but emotions are unpredictable. One day they rise, the next day they fall. If your decisions depend on them, your life will lack stability. Training your mind does not happen by accident. It requires intentional effort. It requires feeding your mind with the right thoughts daily. The world constantly feeds negativity. Social media promotes comparison and insecurity. You must be intentional about what you allow into your mind, because what you consistently consume becomes your mental diet. Your mind will reproduce what it consumes. If you fill it with negativity, it will produce negativity. If you fill it with truth, it will produce strength. If you meditate on truth daily, your mind will learn to respond with wisdom even when emotions try to overpower you. Many people pray for peace while constantly surrounding themselves with chaos. They ask for faith while listening to fear. They seek joy while feeding on comparison. You cannot expect to harvest what you never plant. If you desire peace, you must plant peaceful thoughts. If you desire discipline, you must remove distractions. Every mental seed grows into emotional fruit. This is why you must examine what you are planting in your mind. Training your mind also requires learning to intercept thoughts before they take root. Every emotion begins as a thought. Anger starts with offense. Discouragement begins with hopelessness. Desire begins with imagination. The earlier you capture a thought, the easier it is to remove it. That is why you are instructed to take every thought captive. Do not allow thoughts to wander without control. Your mind is not an open space for anything to enter. It is sacred ground. You must guard it carefully because your destiny depends on it. There is strength in awareness. The next time a negative thought appears, pause and examine it. Ask yourself where it came from and whether it aligns with truth. If it does not, reject it immediately. Do not entertain falsehoods hoping they will disappear. The longer you allow them to stay, the deeper they embed themselves into your emotions. You cannot remove what you continue to feed. Replace negative thoughts with truthful ones. Replace the belief that you are not enough with the truth that you are created with purpose. Replace the thought that you are alone with the truth that you are never abandoned. Replace the belief that it is over with the truth that your story is still unfolding. Your future is being shaped by the thoughts you hold today. Your mind creates the blueprint your life follows. You cannot construct something great using the design of limitation. If your thinking is filled with fear, doubt, and shame, your life will reflect that pattern. But if your thinking is filled with faith, hope, and confidence, your life will rise to meet it. That is why the enemy does not attack your body first. He targets your beliefs. If he can damage your mental framework, your external life will begin to fall apart on its own. Many people blame others for their lack of progress, but the real prison exists within. You are not confined by what others say about you. You are confined by what you choose to believe. You may not control what people do, but you can control how you think about it. You cannot always control your emotions, but you can influence the thoughts that create them. You cannot always control what happens around you, but you can control how you interpret those events. The quality of your life is not determined by how big your problems are, but by how strong your perspective is. If your perspective is weak, even small challenges feel overwhelming. But if your mindset is strong, even great difficulties become manageable. You cannot train your mind while constantly avoiding discomfort. Growth demands unease. Every breakthrough in your thinking requires breaking old mental patterns. You must unlearn what the world has conditioned you to believe and relearn what God says about you. That is why renewal is not a one-time moment. It is a continuous process. You train your mind every single day through repetition, reflection, and revelation. You repeat truth until it becomes second nature. You reflect on wisdom until it becomes a habit. You receive revelation until it becomes your lived reality. The more you practice truth, the more natural it becomes when pressure rises. The difference between a trained mind and an untrained one is revealed under pressure. An untrained mind panics, complains, and gives up. A trained mind remains steady, thinks clearly, and searches for solutions. A disciplined mind does not react emotionally. It responds with clarity and purpose. A trained mind does not immediately see defeat. It recognizes opportunity even in difficulty. When your mind is conditioned, you can stand in the middle of chaos and still experience peace. You can face betrayal and still choose love. You can lose much and still maintain belief. This is because your thinking is grounded in truth rather than shaken by emotions. Your destiny requires this level of control. You cannot guide others if your own mind is not guided by truth. You cannot walk in purpose if your emotions pull you in every direction. You cannot carry influence if you are easily offended. You cannot build anything lasting if you break down every time you are hurt. The strength of your life will always mirror the strength of your mind, and the strength of your mind will always reflect the consistency of your training. So train your mind daily. Wake up with purpose. Guard your thoughts carefully. Strengthen your faith. Reject negativity. Speak truth consistently. When emotions rise against you, when fear begins to whisper, when sadness tries to take over, when anger tries to dominate, stand firm and allow your trained mind to lead. Because your mind is not just a space for thinking, it is the gateway to power. Whoever controls that gateway controls the direction of their life. Emotions can be powerful servants, but they become dangerous when they take control. God gave you emotions so you could experience life, not so you would be ruled by them. Emotions were meant to support your purpose, not replace it. They are signals, not instructions. They reveal what is happening within you, but they were never meant to determine your next move. When emotions take control, logic fades and truth becomes unclear. The same emotions that inspire can also destroy when left unchecked. The same feelings that push you forward can also pull you backward if they are not disciplined. One of the greatest signs of maturity is learning to feel deeply while still choosing wisely. Emotions can follow well, but they cannot lead effectively. Yet many people today are controlled by how they feel. They make decisions when they are angry. They speak when they are offended. They give up when they are tired. They show love only when it is convenient. Their lives move according to emotional waves instead of steady principles. But emotions are unstable. They shift quickly like changing weather. What excites you today may frustrate you tomorrow. If you live according to emotions, your life will feel like a constant up and down cycle. But those who learn to master their emotions do not ride those waves. They rise above them. History shows how emotions have destroyed many destinies. Samson was one of the strongest men, yet his emotions were his downfall. He could not control his desires, and that lack of discipline cost him everything. He lost his strength, his vision, and his purpose. He was not defeated by his enemies. He was defeated by his own lack of control. David, known as a man after God's heart, also fell when his emotions overpowered his integrity. Judas walked closely with truth, witnessed miracles, and heard wisdom. Yet his greed and guilt became stronger than his faith. His emotions led him to despair. Every downfall begins with emotions that are left unchecked. God designed emotions to be like fuel, not a wildfire. They are meant to energize your purpose, not destroy it. Anger can motivate you to stand for what is right, but without control, it becomes destructive rage. Sadness can bring reflection, but when it is not managed, it can turn into deep despair. Passion can create beautiful things, but when misdirected, it becomes obsession. The goal is not to suppress your emotions, but to train them to follow truth. When humanity was created, we were given spirit, soul, and body. The spirit connects with God. The soul contains the mind, will, and emotions. The body connects with the physical world. When your spirit leads, your emotions follow in order. But when emotions take the lead, your spiritual clarity becomes quiet. That is when confusion begins. You start to believe things that are not true. You may feel abandoned even when you are not. You may feel unloved even when love surrounds you. You may feel hopeless even when promises still stand. Feelings can be misleading, but truth remains constant. The challenge with emotions is that they react instantly, while truth requires patience to understand. Emotions demand immediate action, while wisdom often says to wait. That is why decisions made in emotional moments are often regretted later. You cannot make lasting decisions based on temporary feelings. You cannot walk away from your assignment just because you feel tired. You cannot abandon your purpose because you feel hurt. You cannot destroy something meaningful because you feel angry in the moment. Emotions may pass quickly, but their consequences can last for years. Controlling emotions does not mean ignoring them. It means bringing them into alignment. It is not about pretending you do not feel anything. It is about learning to feel and still choose what is right. Even Jesus experienced emotions. He wept, he felt compassion, and he showed anger when necessary. But he was never controlled by those emotions. When he faced rejection, he did not retaliate. When he was betrayed, he did not curse. When he was crucified, he chose forgiveness. That is true mastery. That is what it means to have emotions that serve truth instead of control it. Your emotions follow your thoughts. If your thinking is negative, your emotions will reflect it. If you believe you are a failure, you will feel discouraged. If you believe you are unloved, you will feel isolated. If you believe you are not enough, you will feel insecure. But when you change your thinking, your emotions will begin to shift as well. That is why the real battle is in the mind. Many people try to fix their emotions without addressing their thoughts. But emotions are the result, not the cause. Thoughts are the root. If you want different emotions, you must start with different thinking. You are instructed to guard your heart carefully, because from it flows the direction of your life. The heart represents your emotional center. Guarding it means protecting it from harmful influences. If you constantly expose yourself to negativity, your emotions will begin to mirror it. If you surround yourself with people who complain, your emotions will start to reflect their attitude. If you continuously compare your life to others, your emotions will become drained and dissatisfied. What you allow into your mind and heart will always shape what flows out of your life. You must take responsibility for what enters your emotional atmosphere. You cannot stop emotions from appearing, but you can decide how long they remain. Think of emotions like visitors. You may not control who knocks at the door, but you choose who is allowed to stay. Anger may arrive, but do not let it settle in. Fear may show up, but do not give it a place to rest. Anxiety may whisper, but do not hand it a voice. Every emotion comes to test who is in control, you or it. When your emotions rise, that is your moment to demonstrate your spiritual maturity. Maturity is not measured by how much knowledge you have, but by how steady you remain when emotions try to take over. Some people pray for peace, yet they continue to rehearse pain. Healing cannot happen while you keep replaying the hurt. Joy cannot grow while bitterness is being entertained. Emotions follow focus. If your attention stays on what you lost, sorrow will follow. If your attention shifts to what God has promised, hope will begin to rise. Change your focus and your emotions will begin to shift as well. That is how faith works. Faith does not deny emotions, it redirects them. When life shakes you, emotions will become loud. You may feel fear, disappointment, anger, sadness, and confusion. But that is not the moment to give up. That is the moment to train. Every storm becomes a classroom where your emotions are tested. When you feel like quitting, train your mind to say, "Be still." When you feel rejected, remind yourself of truth. When you feel weak, declare strength. When you feel unworthy, speak love over yourself. The more you practice truth, the more your emotions learn to submit to it. Untrained emotions are like wild horses. They carry strength, but they lack direction. Without guidance, they can lead you into destruction. But once they are trained, that same emotional energy becomes powerful. Passion, empathy, courage, and creativity are all emotional forces when disciplined correctly. Your emotions can become fuel for your vision instead of fire for your destruction. The difference lies in who is holding control, you or your emotions. There is a reason God warned Cain that sin was waiting at his door, but he needed to master it. His anger blinded him, and because he did not control it, it controlled him. That is how many people live today, ruled by the very emotions they refuse to govern. You must learn how to feel without losing focus. Control does not mean becoming cold or distant. It means operating with wisdom. It means knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. It means feeling anger but still choosing peace. It means feeling fear but still walking forward in faith. It means feeling pain but continuing to act in love. That is true strength. Not the absence of emotion, but the authority of truth over emotion. Many believers mistake emotional intensity for spiritual growth. They assume that louder expressions or stronger feelings equal maturity. But emotion without transformation is only noise. True spiritual growth is revealed when emotions are tested and you still choose obedience. When everything in you wants revenge, but you forgive. When sadness tells you to stay down, but you rise anyway. When fear tells you to run, but you stand firm. That is when true strength is revealed. The reason many people struggle to move forward is because they are emotionally stuck in a previous season. They continue to relive pain, betrayal, and rejection. They carry yesterday's emotions into today's opportunities. You cannot move forward while constantly looking backward. Healing begins when you stop feeding the wound. Stop nurturing emotions that are meant to be released. Let it go. Feel it, learn from it, and then move forward. Your emotions are like waves. They rise and fall. You cannot stop them, but you can learn how to ride them. That is what wisdom does. It does not ignore emotion, but it rises above it. This is how Joseph endured betrayal, slavery, and imprisonment. He refused to let bitterness control him. He felt the pain, but he chose forgiveness.